some reports coming from Kaduna suggest that at least 12 people have been killed and 9 others brutally injured by bandits who attacked in Duse Makiali village of Kufana district in the Kajuru local government area of Kaduna State. A community leader, Moses Musa, told China Television that the attack occurred in the early hours of Sunday, very close to a military checkpoint. He said that the bandits invaded the community around 5 a.m. as the residents were still asleep and immediately started shooting sporadically. Disclosed that 9 people were burned to death inside their rooms and 9 others sustained varying degrees of injuries from fire burn. My guest tonight is the Kaduna State Governor, Senator Sani, who joins us virtually from Kaduna. Thank you so much, Your Excellency, for joining us, and our heart goes out to the victims of the attack in the Kajuru local government area. But what more do you know that you can tell us tonight about that incident?
Thank you, Sean, my brother. Thank you for having me. Of course, we woke up to the very terrible news of an incident that happened in Gerawa ward of the local government. Of course, the situation has been calm. We've addressed the situation quickly, and we were so proactive because with the support of the GOC or Mechanized Division, General Otoro, and our team of Operation Yaki jointly worked together to quickly move into the area. And as we are speaking, the situation is under control, and most of the people that have been kidnapped and those that have been injured have been taken care by the government. We are working closely with the families of those that were affected. And of course, we have moved them to the hospital. We're looking at the situation. And those that have been kidnapped, we are working with the security agencies as well as the communities within the area to ensure that we have been able to rescue them from those kidnappers. But the most interesting aspect of the whole situation is that the communities there that comprise about 3 communities within the area of the local government, they have made it clear to the government as well as the security agencies that they suspect some level of informants within the communities that have been working closely with those bandits or the kidnappers. And the government is working to ensure that with the support of the traditional rulers, religious leaders, community leaders in those areas, we are able to identify those disgruntled elements within the communities that have been involved. Like I said, here in Kano State, we've been very proactive. It came to us as a surprise because in the last 3 or 4 months, we've been having series of meetings with our core security agencies in the Kaduna State, comprising the military, both the Air Force, the Army, the police, the DSS, as well as our local vigilance services, who are working closely with even the traditional and community leaders to ensure that we upscale our level of intelligence gathering and intelligence sharing. So I believe we will be able to address this issue because of the relevant information we have. And we are very proactive. In the next few days, by the grace of God, we'll be able to rescue those people.
All right. Why, I mean, there's a question that, someone will want to know. Why does it look like Kajuru local government, like 1 or 2 other local government, look vulnerable to the attacks from these bandits? Is there any reason? No. Is it geography or proximity to the forest, or what exactly?
There are about 2 or 3 local governments in Canada that shares borders with some states. That is why we have been working closely to ensure that we have synergy and work closely with other states that are sharing borders with Kaduna State, particularly Katsina State, Niger State. This are state that shares borders with Kaduna through the forest of Benue Valley, as well as some part of the local government and Giwa that shares borders with Katsina State. And of course, like I said, always this operation will be jointly. In Kaduna, we've been lucky because we've already attracted some support from the military, particular defense headquarters, where, like I said, in the last 2 weeks, we reached an agreement with the military to establish 2 operating bases in Zangon Katap and Igabi local government. This is the area which the military are working toward establishing one of the operating bases, 4 operating bases in that local government. So this will only make the military to quickly work toward meeting the deadline, because in our last meeting, they made it clear to us that before the end of February, they would be able to establish a forward operating base in this very general area. And so I'm working toward that. It's just a setback, but I have no doubt in my mind with the level of operation taking place in Kaduna by the military and as well as other relevant security agencies, we will be able to address this issue. But like I said, in the last few months, I have been insisting that the only way we can address this issue is that we need more boots on ground. The military are trying. They are trying their best. Other relevant security agencies are trying their best. But we need more boots on ground. That is the reason why, if you notice and you've been following my own position in the last 6 months, thereabouts, I've been insisting that we can only address the problem of insecurity if we agree to establish state police in Nigeria. And now I'm saying this thing because, I'm happy just a few weeks ago, some governors have joined me in agitating for the establishment of state police, but it was a long voice. I was the only person insisting. But today, some governors have realized that we cannot address this issue. Of course, some governors have also made some effort in the last few months by establishing or empowering the vigilance services in different states. Even in the southwest, you can hear about Amotopun in the northwest, in particular, Zamfara State, Katsina State, even Kaduna State. We establish and increase the numbers of our vigilance service. But I feel it's just a temporary measure. But that cannot and can never address the problem of insecurity in our states, except we agree collectively to establish state policy in Nigeria. And because of my experience and my knowledge, because when I was in the Senate, if you could recall, I was a senator that sponsored 4 bills put together to establish state policy in Nigeria. Before I came into the Senate, the non-Senate, Senator Ike Madu has also been trying in the 8th Senate. But when I came in the 9th Senate, I sponsored the bills, and he was also supporting me. I could recall vividly. But we lost it at the level of a conference committee. When the Senate considered the bills as sponsored, trying to create state police, we had to sit down with the House of Reps at the level of conference committee, which I was a member from the Senate. The House also have their members, but of course, to amend a constitution, you must have a conference committee where the Senate and the House will come together. So we were at that level when the state police was lost at the conference committee level when we voted 21-19. It was unfortunate. It was avoidable, actually, but that was history. Now, the 10th Assembly, like I said, have a big responsibility to look at the Constitution and amend it to ensure that we have state police in Nigeria. That is my position, and that's the only way forward.
I mean, it's interesting that for the first time, and it is novel in some way, that the federal government, state governors are on the same page about this issue of state police, and it looks to me that the president, Bola Tinubu, is also thinking of ways to advance that conversation. But let me ask you, are you thinking, because you have a peculiar situation in Kaduna State, to establishing local policing system or community policing system, just like we have in some other climes outside of here, where you will have local policing that are being controlled by the local authorities and the traditional rulership. Are you thinking of that kind of system for Cardinal State?
Let me be very clear to you, because if you look at, of course, a lot of people have looked at the issue of community policing, look at an effort to, like I made mention of Amotukun in Zamfara only a few weeks ago. There was an establishment of a Vigilance Service. In Kaduna, we had 7,000. But let me be very clear to you. All those formations, all those creations are only going to help states on the basis of intelligence gathering and sharing, supporting the relevant security agencies. Because if we look at our Firearms Act, of course, if you recall, when I was in the Senate, I also tried to amend the Firearms Act because it was obsolete. The last time the Firearms Act was amended in Nigeria was over 30 years. If you look at the law, and if you look at the Firearms Act in Nigeria, it's obsolete, it's not in line with the global best practice everywhere in the world, not even in Africa. So in Nigeria is the only country where you can be arrested. You can be arrested with illegal firearms, and you can be taken to the court or to the police, and you can be released based on some charges, not imprisonment, but you can pay a fine of about 50,000 thereabout, and you can go home. That is where we are today in Nigeria, and that's the reason why I kept emphasizing that when the United Nations Regional Center for Disarmament of Arms in Africa came with a report when I was in the Senate that about 200 million illegal firearms are in circulation in Nigeria. Out of the 350 million in circulation in West Africa, 200 million are domiciled in Nigeria. Nobody care about that report. And this is where we are. If you have Vigilance Service, or you have vigilant groups, or you have Amotukun, or you have community policing, where is the law that allowed them to hold AK-47?
But Governor Sani, part of what was agreed that was the President Bola Tinubu asking the governors to strengthen their forest guards and forest rangers and arm them. Not a specific, asking from the President, arming them to keep all the forests safe from criminals. This is coming from the President. It looks like a presidential and executive direction or order.
We are taking two things here. Don't mix up the two positions here, because Mr. President, if I could call us at the meeting, he emphasized also on the need to have state police. So any arrangement on to have state police is stopgap. That is the reason why he made it clear that until we establish state police, we cannot just allow our people to be vulnerable, to be killed by these criminal, wicked elements. There's a bandits within our own communities. So that's the reason why. But we're looking at the solution. And that was the reason why Mr. President emphasized, and let me be clear to you, before the meeting, I had privilege of discussing with Mr. President a few times. I recall that Mr. President himself, when he was the governor of Lagos State, he was among the people insisting and agitating for restructuring. What is restructuring? One of the components of restructuring is creating state police. If you recall, some of us have been advocating for the restructuring. We are looking at some particular areas that we believe need to be amended in our own constitution for us to move our country forward. And security, in my opinion, is the number one area that we need to look into, because if we don't address the problem in security, we cannot be able to address most of the developmental areas in our own country. Forget about when we're talking about supporting farmers to go to farm, improving our educational development, insisting that we look at the healthcare. We have to also look at the primary care. But if you look at it, we must have security. Security for me is number one agenda of this government. Even President Bola Tinubu made it clear to us. And I can tell you, we should give credit to President Bola Tinubu, because he's one president that is bold enough to insist that we must have state police. In the past, a lot of people misunderstood the agitation for state police. Some even were a bit ignorant about it. They thought it's about empowering the governors. But remember, when I was championing the establishment of state police, in Nigeria, alongside Senator Ike Ekwamadu, none of us was a governor. But we were agitating for that. Even some governors at that critical time were opposed to our agitation. But today, everyone have agreed that we need to stop police. But I must give credit to President Bola Ahmed Tinubu for being the first president in South Nigeria to insist that stop police is a solution to.
Governor Sani, if I may jump in quickly, let me ask you, would you be arming these forest rangers to help comb and secure the forest where some of these bandits go and hide and perpetrate their evil?
Let me tell you, if you look at what is available, is that most of those vigilance services in our state, when you are trying
seems to be
to buy arms in Nigeria. Anybody you see with arms, whether vigilance service, let me make it clear to you. Hello,
please
can you hear me?
Please go ahead. We can hear you, sir.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, please go ahead, sir.
Let me answer this to you so that you still don't misinform the general public who don't understand the law. So I want to be clear to you. It's not a matter of yes or no. It's a matter of trying to look at the statement of Mr. President in the right context before people take you to the social media and misinform the gullible Nigerians who need to be educated. That's what I'm telling you. When I'm talking to you, I'm referring to Constitution, I'm referring to law, and I made it clear. When we come to talk, we must come as educated people and informed. Some of the people out there who need to be educated so that we don't misinform them. Mr. President made it clear. What was he saying? Mr. President is aware, just like you're aware as a lawyer yourself too. I know you went to study law and you know law to some extent, my brother. So if you look at it clearly, you will agree with me. Every vigilance service in every state in Nigeria, all of them, they cannot acquire any weapon, even if it's a light weapon, without the permission of the state police, the state commissioner. And most of the state commissioner at the state level, if you ask them sincerely, and the DSS, they are the ones with their own permission. Those arms are being bought by state governors for those vigilance services. And what the president is saying, instead of using the vigilance service in town, make them forest rangers. They will be guided by the police because most of the vigilance services they are seeing, they are being guided by the police. That's why they can only acquire those light weapons through the permission of the Commissioner of Police at the state level. And there's a level of permission and there's a category of every arms for you to acquire. That is a law. You know it very well because you're a lawyer. Yeah. So what I'm talking about here is that Mr. President is making it clear to all of us that you have vigilance service. Why can't you now protect your forests? Because some of them are roaming the street of the towns. But he said, send them to the forest. They will work again with the relevant security agencies. Is it the police? Is it the army? Is it the air force? For them to protect the forest. So let people don't understand. Because when president speak, we need to help Nigerians to tell them this is what he means.
Yeah, all right, good. Let me ask you, what have you learned about these bandits? Who are these bandits?
What do you want?
The bandits who are terrorizing the nation and some part of the northwest region of the country. Who are they? From the intelligence that you have, how would you describe them? The average bandit. Are they Nigerians? Are they aliens? What exactly do they want?
Let me tell you, in my opinion, because you see, we have not started really to analyze this. I'm happy you asked this question because I'm someone who has been monitoring and following these events. Sometimes we try to think that maybe some people, maybe out of ignorance, believe the war against the insurgents in the Northeast is similar to fighting bandits in the Northwest. They are not the same at all. The insurgents in the northeastern part of Nigeria that terrorize some Borno State, Yobe State, and some state within the Northeast are different entirely from those bandits in the Northwest. And I'll tell you why. Those one in the Northeast, they are hiding under ideology, saying they are Boko Haram, They've been, they've been recruiting people to say we don't want Boko because of Boko Haram. They're attacking schools, they're killing people, putting bombs in schools. If you remember, that was what their position was. These ones are doing this, they are basing their own attack on the base of their own ideology, which of course, it was rubbish also. But those bandits and kidnappers in the northwestern part of Nigeria, and even right now they're everywhere in Nigeria, including Abuja and some part of the southwest and every part of Nigeria. Those ones are doing this for economic gain. They kidnap and ask for money. There's no ideology. So their own is different. And that's the reason why they try to recruit a lot of informants within the communities before they attacked, just like what happened a few days in Kaduna. So what I'm saying in essence is we have to look at this issue critically. The only way to really deal with these bandits that are in the northwestern part of Nigeria is two things. For me, we also have to look at the issue of good governance. Because if we have good governance, we provide our people with the basic amenities, education, healthcare, improve and revitalize the economies of the rural areas within our own communities. Because this happens in villages more. Then you will agree with me, it will be difficult for anyone to come and recruit informants within those communities. Because it's because of economic gains. Whenever they are arrested, they will be telling the military or the police that someone give them money to expose the communities. So it's for economic gains. If most of them are educated, they have the basic amenities, healthcare, education, revitalize their economies. As we are speaking, like I said, there are some states in northern Nigeria that have over 1.7 million out of school children. I know Kaduna will have less as we are speaking, but I want to look at it generally because, like I said at the beginning, you cannot address this issue of insecurity without having synergy between one state to another. So because we share borders. But the issue here is that we have a common problem. One, we have millions of out-of-school children. We have people that are completely helpless. I think when we're talking about non-kinetic approach to this issue, we tend to forget that good governance is number one and most important area of non-kinetic approach to this issue. What does that mean? Good governance. Looking at the situation. When I talked the other time, remember, I made it clear that when I was in the Senate, I was the chairman of the Senate Committee on Banking, Insurance and Financial Institutions. And I can tell you, when you look at, go and check the record, I kept saying people thought it's just a joke. More than 75% of the adult age in the northwestern part of Nigeria are completely financially excluded. What does that mean? Most of them don't have any means or ways of attracting or benefiting from any social investment support from the federal government. That is the reason why when I came in, I signed an executive order in Kaduna to ensure that we bring at least 2.5 million underserved, vulnerable, poor back to financial services sector in Nigeria. And as we are speaking, we have brought about 1.5 million. And that is a deliberate effort by the government. And I believe that has to be done everywhere.
Yeah. Governor Sani, I understand that you need to run for another meeting, but perhaps my final question for you tonight is in respect of the current socio-economic situation in the country. There was a NEC meeting with your colleagues, the central bank governor, the vice president. There are a lot of people who are facing hardship like we have not seen in a long time in this country. And your party, the APC, made a lot of promise at the federal level and in some states that you control. Tonight, what do you tell millions of Nigerians who are watching, who sometimes, some of them may not even have hopes of what to eat tonight? What are the hopes that things can get better? What are on the sleeves of the governors who are other leaders of this country today?
Thank you very much, Sean. I believe this issue we're facing in this country is a very serious problem. I agree with you 100%, whether you're a governor, you're a senator, you are a journalist like you sitting there, or even an opposition, or even a private sector player, you have to be worried about. But I believe it is something that we can address collectively as governors. And let me start with governors. Looking at the situation, I believe we have to change our approach to issues, because governance is about people. And of course, when the situation becomes the way it is, we have to look at the people, because people first. That is the most important thing. We have to care about the people. How do we do that? We have to look at the relevant areas of our economies. In every state, we are not the same. We have our own peculiarity, and every governor has to look at his situation and find a way. How can I address this situation? I agree with you. The situation is really bad, but governors also have to play their role, not only the president of Nigeria. Asuwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu cannot come down to every local government in Nigeria to look at the problem of smallholder farmers. You cannot look at the situation of basic education at the primary school levels. You cannot look at the primary health care of every state. And you cannot also sit down there in Abuja to address all this issue. That, for me, every governor will have to also look at this issue, and will have to begin to address this issue frontally. It's very important. Coming to that, National Assembly also must look at this issue critically and look at the budget they've done, the current budget, that now the federal government has started implementing it. They have to be careful in the way they oversight these relevant agencies and ensure that monies allocated to federal agencies have to go directly to some developmental projects that will affect the lives of the people at the grassroots level.
All right.
That is also the role. And lastly, even the private sector, I must tell you, have a role to play, because they cannot sit down. What we're talking here is that there are a lot of people in the private sector that they have to also come out and look at this issue and make their own support and contribution, because we're talking about Nigeria. And this crisis of economy is a global economic crisis we are facing. Only 2 days ago, if you look at it, even UK have slipped into recession. That is not only Nigeria, every country around the world.
Right.
It's a global crisis. And everyone must make his own effort and contribution, not only President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. That's why I'm not speaking for the president, but I believe we all have to try as much as possible and stop being critics only. What I'm saying is that someone like me, you know my antecedent. I've been in the civil rights movement alongside the like of Ghana, even Femi Falana, Michael Zokome. But it's easy to be there. But if people think things are not working properly, please, I will urge them, join democracy, contest election even as a state assembly member, or a senator, or a governor. Then you can make your input, but don't sit down and write and criticize the government when you could not go and contest for the state assembly or a local government chairman in your own locality. It's easy, because I was there before, and I taught. And Chief Ganefami told us when we were in the opposition, because he was my leader, that can we join politics? And that was the reason why, if you recall, some of us started National Conscience Party. And today, to credit to some of us, that was the reason why political space is open. Today we have a lot of political parties, courtesy of the people like me. And Ganefami went to court, up to Supreme Court, to expand the political space of Nigeria. So I want them to take advantage of that and join politics and add values to their own communities and societies. Thank you very much.
Senator Sani, Executive Governor of Kaduna, say thank you so much indeed. I appreciate your time tonight and the thought that you've shared.
Thank you, my brother.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me again.
I appreciate it.